Hello. Let's read chapter 3 of On the Heavenly Spheres by Helena Avalar and Luis Ribeiro. Chapter 3 is kind of tedious, probably, but it's just on the astrological chart. I think breaking down different types of charts. Let's get into it. The horoscope or astrological chart is the principal working tool of an astrologer. It is a diagram containing representation of the position of the planets in the sky, as well as the degree of the ascendant and of the various astrological houses. The term horoscope means the observation of the hour. That is, the observation of the configurations in the sky at a specific moment in time. Originally, the term referred solely to the rising sign, with terms like map, figure, or chart being used to refer to the astrological diagram. Currently, the term horoscope arises as a synonym of the astrological chart. To calculate an astrological chart, it is necessary to know the exact time, hour, and location of the event represented in it, the birth of a human being, a question, an event. It is on this basis that these spatial and temporal coordinates that we calculate the positions of the planets in signs in relation to the zodiac and in the houses in relation to the horizon. It is then simply a matter of consulting tables of planetary positions, this word, ephemerides, and tables of houses. After making a few adjustments, we obtain the necessary data necessary to construct the chart. The calculation of a chart or an astrological figure requires, above all, rigor. To do this, one must certify that all the data obtained are as accurate as possible. Generally, the hour is the most problematic because it is normally considered not necessary information. Superfluous. For this reason, it isn't always recorded, and when it exists, it is usually approximated. The hour, nevertheless, the principal element required for the construction of a horoscope. Oh, the hour is, nevertheless, so important. Without it, it is not possible to calculate the ascendant and derived angles, the cusps, nor the exact position of the moon. In truth, without the time, there is no horoscope in the real sense of the term, since horoscope means to observe the hour. In such cases, one can only obtain approximate position of the planets in the signs, which are insufficient for the effective astrological study, for an effective astrological study. For this reason, the student should always determine the hour with the greatest precision possible. In the case of natal charts, one should try to obtain the birth hour from a family member, preferably one present at the moment of birth, and whose recollection is trustworthy. Birth certificates will generally provide a reasonably approximate time, although one should count on some rounding. In any case, one should be careful with errors, delays in registering birth times, poor transcriptions, etc. It is worthwhile, if possible, to compare the data of the official records with those of the family member's recollection. Side note, I have a kid, and when she was born in the hospital, they told me the time was 2:30. And I was like, no, that can't be true. Like, what was the real time? And her father, my kid's father, was actually, I was watching, it was actually 2:30 because he wanted to know the time too. So sometimes it does happen in rounded numbers. In case of doubt, an approximate hour is better than none, although it should not be considered a definitive time. From a probable birth time, it is possible through rectification techniques to search for a more proximate time. This, however, is only viable if the margin of error is not greater than 30 minutes. Excuse me. Mhm. When dealing with the charts of celebrities, one can never be too careful. In these cases, it is always necessary to obtain the source of data, that is, the exact origin of the date or hour of birth. Unfortunately, many professional astrologers neglect this convention and circulate charts without success to the point where there are often in circulation charts of the same person with different birth times and even dates. Some invented hours of ascendance appear, simply derived from the supposed intuition of the astrologer. These data should be regarded as hypothetical and of little astrological value until a reliable source, human or documented, confirms such conclusions. Recall that the role of the astrologer is not to guess signs or the ascendant, but rather to interpret as correctly as possible the horoscopes constructed from reliable data. Only in the case where the hour is unknown should one resort to partial calculation, where only the approximate sign positions of the planets can be known. In any event, it is always preferable to calculate a chart without a birth time than to invent an ascendant. When the hour is unknown, it is advisable to calculate the planetary positions for noon and obtain an average planetary positions for that day. Again, we repeat that any interpretation based upon this data is very incomplete and will only give a general idea of the behavior of the individual or of the dynamic of an event, the individual's particularities, and all their complexity and depth can only be identified in a comprehensive astrological chart with the known time. Moving on to this chapter, the representation of an astrological chart. There are several ways to draw a horoscope or figure. The most common design, which was used in this book, consists of 3 concentric circles. The first and outermost circle depicts the 12 signs of the zodiac and contains a ruler representing 360 degrees. The second circle is also divided into 12 parts, but these are unequal divisions. It represents 12 houses and is further subdivided into 2 circles. And the outermost of the 2 depicts the degrees in minutes where the houses begin, i.e., house cusp. The interior and wider circle contains representation of the planetary positions with the glyph, degree, sign, and minute. The third most inner circle, the third and most innermost circle, can either depict the title of the horoscope or the lines corresponding to the aspect, the angles that each planet makes to one another. Let me just see. Can you see that? I would point stuff out, but it's actually really hard to interpret from the monitor from there. But yeah, hopefully you've seen a chart if you're reading this with me. The horoscope through history. The first known horoscopes consisted of a simple list where the planet signs positions were indicated. There were no diagrams. Later, we find some representations of astrological charts in tombs, buildings, in the form of reliefs and paintings, which simultaneously fulfilled an informative, decorative, and sacred function. In the Greco-Roman period, simple diagrams, appear with the position of the planets and signs and houses. Generally, these charts had a square format and were divided into 12 areas representing the 12 houses. Inside each area, we find the symbol or name of a planet and its representation sign position, with a degree and minute of its location. The square style continued into the 17th century with only slight aesthetic variation reflecting the period and culture. The choice of the square format is due, on one hand, to its ease of drawing, on the other hand, to the fact that its interpretation was based on the four angles, or principal houses, which form in these charts a central cross. Here are some examples. In some charts, the houses occupy the whole square, where in others, generally in more recent charts, a central square was left blank so that the author could write in the title and data of the astrological chart. To read a square chart, first identify the 12 houses and next observe the positions of the planets. If the planet is in the sign of a particular house, it is generally drawn on the cusp of that house. If it's in the next sign, it is placed in a parallel to the next house, which begins with that sign. In the majority of the diagrams, the degree and minutes of each house and planets are indicated. In other versions, dotted lines are drawn to separate planets located in different signs, but in the same house. In some texts, the authors take artistic liberties, introducing many variety and imagination in their designs. Currently, there is no preference shown for circular there is a preference shown for circular astrological charts, which in the majority of cases also include a wheel with a zodiac. This sophistication is due, no doubt, to the technological advances that exempt the student from the arduous task of drawing the figure by hand. If this were not the case, the square chart would still be in use as it's much easier to draw. In fact, we observed the horoscope at the beginning of the 20th century. We find they are very simple, consisting simply of a circle divided into 12 parts, houses, within which is noted the position of each house and inside a position of the planets by sign. Later, the central space of the wheel begins to be used to depict the angular relationships between the planets, known as aspects. This is the type of chart we most use today. Let me just see if I can. It's kind of cool. There's an old, just the cross, and then definitely you should probably Google different types of astrological houses. There's some more square charts. Yeah. Okay. From this idea emerged many variations. Oh, so much. From this idea emerged many variations whose differences are based solely upon aesthetic preferences. Despite the variations, they all convey the same information. Of all the options available today, what is most important is the diagram present. Not present, present, spelled exactly the same. Let's see, I'm gonna start the sentence over. Of all the options available today, what is most important is that the diagram present the astrological information in a clear, complete, and unequivocal manner. A diagram with these characteristics is, in reality, the first step to a quality astrological delineation. Oh my gosh, that is chapter 3. That was fast. Next up, chapter 4, the planets. We're getting into the real stuff. I'm excited. Hope you are too. Thanks.